Hello there, my very good friends. Andy Murray here for What Culture Wrestling, and today we're going to have a conversation about what has easily been the most criticised aspect of the AEW product since the promotion became a thing, the women's division. Let's go! But before we dive into the current state of the women's division, its perceived problems, and what I believe AEW could do to alleviate them, let's go all the way back to the 8th of January 2019. Let's go back to the Double or Nothing announcement rally in Jacksonville, Florida, where the company's DNA, the identity, what this promotion was going to be, was laid bare. At this rally, we heard from, well, almost anyone who mattered within the promotion at that time. Cody, the Young Bucks, a bunch of wrestlers, and of course the Chief Brand Officer, Brandi Rhodes. She was the one that laid out a vision of what this women's division was going to be. And I've got a few quotes from Brandi right here. She said that she wanted to build a strong division with the best female wrestlers in the entire world. AEW was going to cast a very wide net to try and secure the best possible performers for this division. There was talks of going to Japan. Brandi spoke of this herself. She said some big announcements were incoming, more on that to come with regards to talks with, and again, I quote, some of the top Japanese wrestlers in the world. On top of this was, of course, the promise that depending on card position, there would be no pay difference between men and women. So theoretically, if Britt Baker's headlining a card and Kenny Omega's headlining another card, they're going to be making the same money. We are now 22 months removed from that press conference, and, well, I think a lot of people would agree subjectively that Rhodes' ambitions for the division, that Brandi's vision for this division has not been fulfilled on screen. Now, there are a lot of great wrestlers in this division, right? Hikaru Shida, Nyla Rose, Serena Deeb. There's no shortage of talent. But the perceived problems come to life every single week. They're a topic of discussion as soon as Dynamite goes off the air. Short matches, only 1 or 2 segments per show, lack of promo time, lack of overall screen time. I mean, if you just look at the Nyla Rose versus Hikaru Shida match, Full Gear, before the go-home show, AEW had only dedicated around about 3 minutes of screen time to developing this program, and 2.5 minutes of that went down on Dark, not Dynamite. So you look at all this stuff and it's very fair to say, okay, this isn't very good. Particularly when you consider NXT, the nearest possible competition. They are smashing their women's division. It is one of the best, if not the best women's division outside of all women companies in the world. Yet you flick over to TNT and you might get a squash, you might get an 8-minute mid-card match. It's not being presented on the same level. So those are the subjective complaints regarding this division, and I'm sure there are more as well, but the thing is, when you delve into the data that I have here, it's actually kind of an objective problem as well, because AEW aired 13 2-hour regular episodes of Dynamite between August and October. A 3-month period, 13 shows, and on average, quarter-hour viewerships featuring women's matches on those shows dropped by an average of around 43,000 viewers. To contrast that, NXT, their women's matches during the same period gained viewers. It's not a particularly high number, but around an average of 4,000 per match. Although you do have things like on the 28th of October, Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae, those things peaked way higher than anything the AEW women's division could bring to the table. Now, the quarter-hour viewing numbers, they're not a perfect metric, right? Because particularly in AEW, where screen time for women's wrestlers is a lot harder to come by, there are going to be other things in these quarter hours. You're going to have segments, other matches bleeding into them. They are not solely occupied by the women themselves. So, knowing that, you do kind of have to put a little caveat on this information and say, okay, well, it's not entirely down to these matches. But looking at them, an average of 43,000 viewers per match, changing the channel or looking elsewhere, you can fairly look at this and say that the audience are not seeing these people as stars. They are not attracting an audience to come in from elsewhere. They are not drawing people in. And I'm going to argue that that is a systemic failure and not a failure on behalf of the talent. I've got to stress that time and time again here. The talent, there's excellent wrestlers in this company, and there's some red hot prospects as well. The likes of Tay Conti and so forth look much improved already from the day they first entered the AEW system. I don't think the wrestlers are the issue. I don't think the talent is the issue. The system is. So let's talk about how we can reconfigure it a little bit so that someday these matches and these segments spike viewership, like NXT's do. The perception of the AEW Women's Division among critics is that it is booked like an afterthought, and when you present something to the public that feels to them like an afterthought, well, they're gonna treat it as such. It's very hard to treat someone as a star when you're not told that they are from the way they're presented. A popular answer when discussing how to fix this is to increase the screen time, right? Give the women longer matches, more promo time, more segments, present more of these things throughout the show instead of just the usual 1 or 2. And to be fair, right, it's probably a viable answer. How do you build a connection with the audience? How do you grow your character, establish yourself, and become a star if opportunities to do so are so slim? Now, some might argue that if you increase the airtime, there's a short-term risk there because these things typically lose viewers. It's a fair point, right? It's a very fair point indeed. And that's the quandary of this whole thing. You have to dedicate extra screen time to something that isn't pulling people in at the moment. But that's a necessary sacrifice at this moment because, like I've said, if you don't give people the platform, how do they flourish? Another potential problem with expanding runtimes and expanding screen time is that a lot of these wrestlers are still quite green, but the thing about that is, yeah, okay, if you put people who are very, very early in their development in these 15-20 minute matches, they're going to be exposed. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything green about, say, Serena Deeb, who's an excellent professional wrestler, Hikaru Shida, who Cody recently put over as the best wrestler in the entire company. There's even people like Shana and Riho who aren't on television at the moment. These are refined, excellent, skilled pro wrestlers. So with smart booking, you can kind of get around those concerns. I mean, take someone like Penelope Ford. She has grown immensely since AEW came to life and is a lot better today than she was even, say, a year ago. Nyla Rose peaks extremely high. Her explosive bursts and monster spots are a sight to behold. And against the likes of Shida and Riho, she's had some excellent matches. The solution to this complaint appears to be build the division around these people. Build the division around the people who are very, very high on their development curve. Use them to help grow, develop, and build the others elsewhere on the card. Lift them up, establish the hierarchies. It's not like you're gonna go out there and give, say, Anna Jay, who has had, what, like less than 20 professional matches, a sudden 30-minute main event. That's not the solution. It's careful booking, careful application, putting the right people in the right places, and helping the others grow. And at the center of all of this, I'm gonna argue, is the one person in AEW, the one woman in AEW whose matches throughout the month of October actually spiked viewership increases in the quarter hour in which they were featured. It also happens to be the woman in AEW with comfortably the biggest character, somebody capable of carrying extended TV segments inside the ring or out, because her personality is just so damn strong and so well developed. It's time for AEW to call the doctor. Of course, I'm talking about Britt Baker. Now, there was a report in early November this very month from Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer stating that AEW originally planned to go with Britt Baker, who's the first women's wrestler signed to the company, as the top babyface. Now, they obviously pivoted on this. They went to Hikaru Shida instead. Baker turned heel in January 2020. And ultimately, you might look at the Shida title reign. It's been excellent in the ring, but has it delivered on a viewership level? Has it made her a considerable star? Has it given her opportunities to develop her character? You might look at those questions, answer them, and go, Well, no, maybe they should have gone with Baker in the first place. I'm gonna argue that they actually made the right decision on holding off on Britt. I think if you look at her early babyface performances, they didn't quite connect at the level AEW would have liked. She wasn't entirely confident on the microphone, her character didn't feel all that assured. But now, in November, we're talking over a year of Dynamite. I don't think the difference could be more stark. I don't think Britt Baker has ever been more ready to be the ace than she is now. Turning heel in January was a masterstroke for Baker, who immediately looked more confident, calm, composed in her role. She was expertly positioned alongside Tony Schiavone, who is the perfect guy for her to bully, because who doesn't love Tony Schiavone? He's like your lovely uncle, man. Can you imagine the sheer rage you would feel if somebody just slapped your granddad in the street while he was on the way to the shop to get his paper and his bottle of milk? You would be raging! And that's exactly how you felt when Britt was bullying Tony. Her character was snotty, obnoxious. She was paranoid, unraveling those conspiracy theories. And when she got injured in May, it should have been a disaster, because how do you stay relevant when you can't wrestle? Britt Baker found the answer. She was in her wheelchair, her little cart with Reba by her side, another target of her bullying, feuding with Big Swole, getting dumped in trash cans, cutting these great promos, growing into her role, and proving that comfortably in AEW, Britt Baker's character is stronger than anyone else in the division. And that strength of character is exactly why she should be the next AEW Women's Champion and hold that belt for a long, long time. It's because of this great heel character that Britt has a connection with the audience above everyone else. When there were live crowds in the building, all she needed to do was drop one single insult and the building would be shaking with jeers. This, unfortunately, at the moment is an anomaly. Britt Baker is just so much more developed than any other personality on this roster, and it's time for that to become the norm. It's time for her to be the figurehead, to take control of a character-driven division that isn't sacrificing match quality, because the likes of Shida have had some brilliant matches, but this needs to be the blueprint. This needs to be the example. We need more personalities that people can invest in on Britt's level before things can really take off. Now, I know it's a very simplistic thing to say, to go, well, you want to fix the division, just push this person, right? But it makes sense for Britt. You know, when AEW came together, when they crowned their first world champion last year, they went with the biggest, boldest personality in the men's division to carry the world title through its first few months, Chris Jericho. Now, I'm not saying, obviously, that Britt Baker is a star on the level of Chris Jericho, but she is a star, and she is the biggest personality in this division. So why not take that model and apply it here as well? And really, I think it's something that AEW will hopefully be looking to address very soon, because in 2020, it isn't enough to have a mediocre or lackluster women's division anymore. WWE, who failed in this regard for so long, are nailing it with Bayley and Sasha, with Asuka, with everything going on in NXT. It's night and day at the moment. I think tightening this nut and bolt with AEW's product is vital to how they do going forward, to how they are received critically at the very least. And I would hope that as we progress through the next few months, through the next year or so, that we will see big leaps forward, potentially with Britt Baker at the helm. Anyway, guys, that's it. My take on the matter is done. But as always, I want to know what you guys think. So head on down to the comment section below and drop your thoughts right there. Once you've done that, you can like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. Then follow us on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE and myself at Andy H. Murray, where you can send me abuse and tell me how wrong I am. Bye.